the word of the day today is furlough. So the drinking game, anytime furlough is said, we will be drinking.
Can we pick something more positive?
I tried to think of something positive and I didn't have any.
Furlough.
I was going to say like revenue, but I feel like we'd get super drunk super fast. So.
We'd be dead.
All right, well, I guess we'll just dive in. Welcome to the 3rd edition. Is that cool, Leslie? We ready to go? 3rd edition of Happy Hour. We have a smaller group today, but that's okay. We can therapy with each other and things like that. But my child's almost done with her picture. She'll show us when she's done. So
Okay. Excellent.
So on the docket today, we have a couple of topics, but because we have a kind of a smaller group, we'd be fine to talk about specific things that you guys want to chat about. But the first on the list here is about budget reductions and changes that are going there. So, but I thought I'd open it up with thoughts on summer training and summer workshop. We kind of floated that out the last couple times on what you guys feel your organizations will be able to do, pay for essentially, and what they're looking for, and just get feedback on that, because I think it'll lead us into some of those budget reductions and restrictions and stuff like that. So thoughts on summer and the summer workshop with the ideas that we've chatted about. I think everyone on here has been on past calls. So what do you think, guys, for summer?
I can go first. We're not going to have a staff to send anything for the summer. Sorry.
So are you going to be doing some online digital training yourselves? Would us supporting that through the virtual workshop be ideal?
Well, we hired almost all of our new people back in February. We got lucky and got all of our new people in and trained for the fall. So I'm not quite sure yet what we're going to be doing for the summer. I think it'll be something to consider if we want to have them work with you remotely on training. But right now, yeah, we're fully trained. They're just raring to go.
Oh, anybody else who needs to get some training in the summer? What would they like it to look like if we could support it?
I talked with my interns, which will be the bulk of my group coming back, and I did my full training with them that I normally do in-house. But they all were asking what are some other things we can do over the summer? Like how can we stay, which is more than they normally do, right? Normally, if they're not staying on campus during the summer, they do not care what I have going on. So I'm not sure if that's because most of them have internships and things that have been canceled or changed. So I know that I have staff that will not be paid in the summer, but would still be willing to and be interested in doing this training. However, I am not the person that makes the budgeting decisions, nor do I know all the things going on with it. But I do know the chances of me getting approval to spend money feel really, really low after a couple of conversations that I've had with Tracy, our interim director. So, depending on what it is, if I'm able to get all of my staff, that'll be there. And I think it's really worth it. And even if she's not willing to do it, I have thought, like, could I split it with her and like some of it just be my cost? Because I don't feel great about her thinking we can spend any money on any training extra things at all, because we wouldn't have had it in the budget. I haven't sent anybody in the last couple of years. So I don't know. I did not ask her directly, but those are my thoughts. I'd love to have it. I'd love to participate. I think I would have students that would be willing to do it, even though they're not going to be on staff during the summer. But cost would be my concern. And I don't know the official answer on that, but that's what I lean for.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Have any universities put out, like ours put out recently, a travel conference policy that we're not allowed to travel, but they made ours for virtual. We're not allowed to spend on virtual conferences either until August 31st.
I was just on a call with some other departments, housing, the union, any of those things, and they're talking about budget reductions, so 5-10%. And just going through all those exercises, even though enrollment seems to be up, it's what the early stuff looks like. They're still obviously trying to pay off the millions that have been lost in the meantime, right? So they all basically decided, I don't think, well, I'd say decided, the two things they struck first were raises and travel, and just the same thing. And I asked the same thing. I was like, well, travel, that's easy. And they're like, well, no, we won't do any professional development at all.
Yeah, that
And
just released it today.
yeah, and I was like, I get it. I guess I understand, but so that's what's happening here too. I guess it's like advertising, right? Those are easy things to cut.
Yeah.
Easy things to cut.
Anybody else?
I think to go off what Julie was saying, we've got a baby staff, which is exciting, but they don't know shit, right? So like anything would be helpful, I think. And those of you who met Nikki, our sales manager who was on some of these calls previously, she's also new to us too. So I think we would be up to anything. And I think, obviously cost is always there because we're trying, we lost so much of our revenue that was tied to people being on campus for whether it was events or picking up a newspaper, and obviously that's the same problem for everybody. But so we'd have to stare at it pretty hard, but I definitely like to weigh some options. I think that's where we'd land.
Is there a price? Go ahead.
What if some of the training that was done in late July was packaged and made available August 31st, September 1st, that you could buy into then? Do you think that would be more appealing?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Kick it down. We could kick it down the road a little bit, and I think once the new fiscal year starts, which is for us is July 1st, so it probably would be the same choice. But I think we'd like to look at it. I like this stuff, and I believe in this stuff, and I like to band together and help each other out. So I'd like to, I guess that's not like a definitive yes, but I'd love to at least see what we can come up with and be a part of that. Yeah. But that's a good idea, because if you could kick it down a little bit, that probably would help some people get some of that first blush, back to school cash, I guess, if you will. Yeah.
I think it's all going to be determined by the health of each of our universities as to where we're at, and if we return in the fall. I mean, they still haven't definitively decided if we're returning in the fall, which could be a crippling effect for all of us. So. Sorry, I'm being a Debbie Downer, didn't mean to be, but there's just so much unknown. There's just so much unknown right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to commit to anything.
Mhm.
That's why I think the later date would actually work a little bit better, because then we know where we are. So I kind of like that idea, actually.
Obviously, us continuing these kind of trainings and get-togethers that we've kind of started planning out, like what we did last week, that obviously helpful. Do we need to keep that at the same kind of pace, or would you like to see us ramp that up or cut back on that through the summer months?
I think anything that we can find, Nate, that will help our organizations move forward in new ways of revenue production and new ways of doing business as more of a digital media companies, which I feel like is this is pushing us in that direction. But anything that's going to really help us come up with some solutions to our revenue, our expense models would be beneficial.
Okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about those reductions and those restrictions that you guys are dealing with, and seeing who Who has it worst? No, I'm just kidding. Some of you I know have been asked to reduce budgets by a certain percentage and talking about that kind of stuff. So what requirements are being asked of you guys? Maybe we can have a who has it worst moment, and then how are you meeting those? And that might help those who have it coming down the line in the future. So Tammy, I know you've had a big one. Do you want to start us off maybe?
Yeah, so Kent State reduced the pay of all professional staff. Basically, they did it by tiers, depending on how much we make, and that's how much you were cut. And they cut it until June 30th of 2021, with the extenuating circumstances that it may go on for 2 additional years if our enrollment goes down. They shut down all merit raises, no travel for 2 years unless we pay for it out of pocket. And basically what they're doing is pocketing vacation days into our vacation accounts to make up for the inconvenience.
The convenience of a 10% pay cut.
Yeah, if you're like, here's vacation time. Go take vacation with the money you no longer have. They asked us to submit 3 budgets to the university. A budget if we get 20% less, if we get 30% less, and if we get 35% less. They asked us to reduce our staff, student staff, or try to make them non-paid. We have 898 students, so it's not going very well. So yeah, that's what we're doing. It's a mess, but we'll make it work. We'll make it work.
That's awful, Tammy. I'm sorry to hear that. That's really terrible.
That's all right. I still have a job, so I'm thankful for that.
You know, if you have I'm trying to do the math in my head. If you have a pay cut and extra vacation, I think that sounds like a furlough.
Hey.
I drink so much during the day. This is why Paul Biddick keeps mailing me wine. I think he's worried about me.
Thank you, Alan. Tammy, how far along in the process are you? Other people, are you currently dealing with having to go through all that, last minute, kind of get it together in 2 weeks, 2 days type stuff? My wife works in business services, and she's had to do all the salary stuff for certain departments in the university, and they had like 24 hours to pull it off. So anything that anybody needs help-wise there or advice? Good. That means few of us have to do it.
Tammy, have they talked about reducing your print schedule or moving any ad dollars,
Well, our print schedule is actually decided upon by the students, not the board. So if we can afford to print, we do. We are not printing this summer. We are lowering down how much we are going to print because we're concerned that people are not going to want to put their hands in community racks. We are no longer printing magazines, which was a massive shift for us because we print about 20,000 magazines a year. So that took a really big hit on our students. We are going to stop printing the paper except for special sections, most likely in the fall. I know that some other schools are looking into this. I had a conversation with John Schlitt for about an hour, and they're probably doing the same thing at Cal Poly. Just because we're thinking people aren't going to pick up the paper, especially if we're stuck at home and still under stay-at-home orders. In Ohio, we've been shut down for 8 weeks. So a lot of my advertisers are still shuttered and haven't even opened yet.
I can share. I just got out of my third quarter budget meeting, and part of that, I was asked to provide a scenario with 10% reduction and 20% reduction. And essentially, I manage 4 areas, and the 3 of the 4, 2 are broadcast, 1's a magazine, and the 4th is the paper. 3 of the 4 we could make it work at 10%, but when you paper into the equation, we can't cover our printing cost. And so essentially the decision was, I didn't want to cut student pay. And so in order to keep that in line, we're looking like we're not going to print. And it looks like we're going to be digital only with some special sections, trying to figure out what makes sense. And then again, kind of waiting to see what school looks like in the fall. And so once we know definitively if we'll physically be on campus, if it will be a hybrid, that will kind of guide our plans and what we do print, because we have 130 boxes and racks, you know, all over campus and downtown. And so what do you put in those? I don't want to pull them off the street. So
That
we
was a
have
big question. What do we do with all these racks?
Yeah, and so we're putting out our evergreen publications that we just printed. And so we have things to put out, but when folks come back, what does that look like? But we've essentially decided that the weekly paper is not going to be a thing anymore. They were producing a daily email newsletter that served as a daily paper, for lack of a better word. But, you know, I think we're very close to getting all of our student emails. And so once we get that, and I know Alabama, you guys have all of yours, don't you, Julie? That's going to be really important for us moving forward, because if we don't have the paper and a physical, tangible product that's out there, you know, and we're seeing higher student engagement over these past few weeks, unlike we've ever seen before. And so, you know, it's unfortunate, but we won't be printing, and it's budgetary. But again, readership was in the, you know, dumps anyway.
Can I ask, are these decisions for you guys, are they permanent decisions? Like, I know we don't ever start reprinting issues once we stop printing issues, but Tammy, your magazines, like, is that shuttered forever, or is that shuttered for now, or what?
We were set to go to print in April. We pushed it to May, pushed it to June, we pushed it to August, and now we just said we're not printing them. This year, none of the budgets that we've submitted to the university allow us to print financially. If some miracle happens that we get a huge donation, we would love to print them. But the fact of the matter is, when we've done some research and have sent some emails and just surveys out, and people don't want to pick them up. So if they're not going to pick them up, there's no reason to.
Are you still producing them for digital?
We did.
Okay.
We did. We launched all of them digitally.
So if I could, I'd like to maybe share a success story that came about because of this group, just a personal one, and then kind of open it up for you guys to do the same. So I've mentioned Issue and its features a couple times, and I wanted to just kind of share with you some statistics that we have seen. So one of the things that are the ideas that came across because of you guys, no, that's the wrong one, just give me a second here, was the graduation guide idea. And then, so we have been monitoring kind of the stats that happened with our issues that we've been putting up. So we started, like I said, kind of back in around March, our first issue. And this is where our engagement was as far as people with those products on Issue. And then this was our graduation insert here. So you guys helped us get quite a jump there in engagement. And this is something I can now, when we talk about new revenue and eyeballs, like we now have them, and we can kind of show and talk about it with our advertisers about what we're doing. And so this is, again, you know, I think a lot of us are using Issue, but again, this is the paid version, and there's a lot that they're making down the line that allows us to make revenue, and you can do Facebook ads and stuff like that now. But I kind of wanted to just kind of show you guys that publication and talk to you about how, because of the input and the ideas that you guys gave us, it actually created this really cool publication that saw a huge boost in stuff that we were doing. And it was kind of a cool publication. We do this thing called 50 Influential, and where we have people nominate, influential students and stuff on campus. And they essentially got pushed back. And so what our students decided to do was features on a few seniors with a note from the president here. So it basically took over the paper. And then I talked to you guys about how we sent out the survey and just gave free advertising to those that gave us logos and kind of mixed those in. And the focus on all these people is our guess of why people are sharing this. And it's kind of more viral, and here's our 50 most influential, right? And then the last few pages were just lists of all the graduating seniors, because they usually have that in the commencement book or whatever, and that isn't getting printed. And so we just threw them all in here, and we got the Alumni Association to take out some ads, and the student affairs people took out an ad to just congratulate seniors and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that success story because of this, and because of talking to you guys and trying new ideas that I heard in these meetings. And so if there's other success stories or show and tell time, I guess, that you guys want to chat about, I'd love to see it.
Finish the other discussion though first.
What was that one?
Well, we're talking about what we're doing as far as budgets for next year, and I'd kind of like to finish that discussion. I appreciate that. I do have questions about your product and how much Issue is charging you to do all of that, and then how you make your money back on it. But I'd kind of like to hear what everybody else is doing. Like Charlie, what's going on at your school as far as reductions and changes?
Sorry, I was answering a frantic email from an editor-in-chief that's been problematic this year. What we've been doing is we've completely shuttered the print products while there's a shelter-in-place order, because nobody's going to be on campus to receive the products. And our board of directors will allow us to ramp back up as soon as students can be back on campus. So we're still kind of in limbo, like a lot of y'all are, in that regard, because there still hasn't been a determination made for fall classes either at this point. And so one of the things that we're also evaluating right now is we might change our frequency when we come back online. Currently, we're publishing twice a week, and our students are finding out that they could be doing this journalism 100% digitally right now. And so in all actuality, it's kind of helped us a little bit, kind of streamline some of our digital first workflows that we've been trying to get everybody transitioned over to for the last decade. And to be honest, I'm a little worried that when we get back, if this goes on too long, that our students are going to be like, do we really need to print a newspaper? Because we are engaging digitally. And my answer to that is yes. Even if we don't do like a regular edition, I still want special sections, because that's where we make most of our money from anyway. Traditionally at University of Minnesota, and even at the Daily Emerald when I was working in Oregon, we weren't covering the cost of the regular edition through the ad sales in that product. So that was being subsidized by our special editions anyway. And then we've really transitioned to one, going after our email edition and getting those subscriber rates up. We just broke 8,000 subscribers, which is it's like 1,500 more than our actual print distribution now. We were distributing 7,500. So we're a lot more comfortable charging print-like rates in our email edition now. Yeah. And our open rate is about 50%, which interestingly enough mimics our pickup rate for the print edition. And our open rate on our digital products is actually trending up. Kind of, I think, Sarah, were you talking about that you're seeing more engagement online now than you have in the past? And I think that's another silver lining that's happened because of the pandemic, is our students are shifting to digital, and a lot of our student readers understand and know that they can find us in a digital space now. Previous to that, we were doing like focus groups and sending out surveys where we had a shocking number of students that didn't even know they had a campus newspaper. And so that's helped a lot as well. And then the third like big change that we're doing is we're partnering with the Star Tribune right now, and they're going to help us kind of do what, is it CIBA? Is that the group that was selling the geo-target?
Cyber, yeah.
CIBA, yeah. We're going to start training our staff to sell products that aren't ours. We're going to start going out and selling like CIBA goes out and sells. We're going to sell
targeted digital ads.
Yep, targeted digital ads
to
our local customers. Like they don't want to do it themselves. Organizations like the Star Tribune and like the Des Moines Register and different Gannett properties have started doing that anyway. And it's an actionable skill that our sales staff can absolutely use when they graduate. Like that's going to help them get jobs. And that's just in the infancy right now. We've had like 2 or 3 meetings, and then the shelter-in-place order hit. So the Star Tribune is still working and grappling with getting all of their remote workers up and running. So we'll be readdressing that probably at the beginning of June when everything is kind of settled down a little bit. But I'm more than happy to kind of keep the group updated on that strategy as well, because I do think that that's something that student media can really pick up and run with. We just have to get comfortable with the concept of it'll never show up on our websites or different places like that, but it's ad dollars that we can be selling to subsidize our organization.
Hey, Charlie.
I love that. Can we maybe Nate I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can we get someone from CIBA or somebody from Star Tribune to talk with our group about that? Because those are the kind of ideas that I'm looking for. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm definitely looking for those ideas for new revenue in the digital.
I got one from Terry Lucas. We're signing with his guy to do it.
I was just going to bring that up. We've been working for the past 3 years now targeting extended digital reach using a company called PH Design. We were fortunate enough, sort of like what Charlie did. The owner of PH Design was the digital guru for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And he and his wife had started their own digital fulfillment agency. So he was on our Pitt News Advisory Board. And so he offered his services to us. And like I said, we've been selling for about 3 years now, where we sell different packages to our advertisers. And it really just covers everything. But he is willing to break into the college market. If you went to Tammy and session at CMBAM on alternative revenue streams, I did about a 20-minute session on partnering with the digital fulfillment agency and what it takes and this, the pricing, that sort of thing. But he is interested, and the good thing about him is he's got newspaper experience, and he understands college newspapers, being on the Pitt News Advisory Board and working with us for the past 3 years. So basically what he's doing for us is he's charging us $3 per thousand. And so what we do is we just basically double that rate and charging our clients $6 per thousand, paying them half. And that's mostly for placing ads on other desktops, mobile, that sort of thing, at like a $3 per thousand rate. But when you go start doing like Google AdWords search and that sort of thing, you have to have a completely different ad structure because Google takes a hell of a lot more. And you can't make a lot of money on that part of it. It is a service they do provide. They are licensed Google and certified for AdWords and that sort of thing. So if you're interested, I can send you a slide deck that he had prepared for me and I had went over with CMBAM schools at the CMBAM conference. And there's a contact information as well if you'd like to get a hold of them.
Do you think
Definitely.
that he might join us for a chat at some point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I bet he would. He's
I would
awesome.
love it.
We're super pumped. We just signed on with them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed that session, Terry.
Yeah, but we can send you the slide deck. The thing that I think is really important is it takes, I mean, we've been doing it for 3 years, and it takes a while for the students, it has been for our students at least, while they're selling print and every other product that we've developed, digital and otherwise. It's just that it's almost like information overload to the student reps. My professional multimedia account executive sells it more than anybody. And what he does is he normally goes with our student reps out to clients to kind of go over it with them. But basically you just go to the client, you fill out an RFP, you send the RFP to PH Design, they come up with the campaign, you send them the artwork, they develop the ads for you, you get really extensive reporting. And I can tell you that the performance levels for any of their extended digital reach is way above industry standard compared to what we've seen coming from just our performance and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Well, everyone, I have to go, but just so everyone can drink, I'm furloughing on out of this meeting here. And so
Thank you, Laura.
we will hopefully see you next week.
Bye, Gora.
Bye-bye.
What are you doing, Julian, at Alabama, as far as budget cuts or revenue ideas?
Well, so Tracy is our interim director right now, and she looped me in a little bit because I was asking a bunch of questions about what I needed to be figuring out for the summer. So right now, our plan is to no longer print the summer piece that we printed and mailed. So we're going to save on the printing and the mailing, but we're going to do that digitally. And so I talked a lot about how Nate had talked about the issue upgrade. So we're looking into that, and just a couple of other, is that the best option? Do we want to look at something else to make it an actual digital file? And we're already able to get our emails from the registrar. So I just need to get with her and say, instead of addresses, can I just get the freshmen a little bit earlier than what I normally get from her? And I haven't done that yet. That will be key in making that shift. We had been printing Mondays and Thursdays. As of right now, the last thing I heard from Tracy is the plan is they're discussing with the students about taking that down to 1 day a week. So we'll probably only print Thursdays. That had already been a multi-year discussion. We pulled reports every end of the year to discuss. And we were not making money on every issue, maybe a handful every semester. We don't do as many special issues as everybody else. So we have a game day section on Thursdays, which we call our special issue, but it's really just the regular paper with a football cover because that's what people like. The plan right now is to take away that Monday paper, keep the Thursday paper. Now, UA rolled out an email this week that said we are doing all of our planning as if we are coming back in the fall. That did not say we will be back in the fall, but people grabbed that and everybody's had an article about it. So I know that there is a chance that that doesn't happen, but UA is proceeding right now with the hopes of doing that, which I think if we're back, obviously printing once a week may still happen. If we're not, then that's not going to happen, right? So that's really the only big pieces that I know. I know we're not paying any students over the summer, so I myself am in the middle of learning design software this week so that in case I don't have a student to design things over the summer, I can at least halfway piecemeal something together, which is what Paul used to do before he left us. And I should have learned it last summer, but I put it off. So I will be the only one selling anything that we have for the summer. I know that much. I won't have any students for that either. So I think those are the only big pieces that I know of that they've discussed or made kind of comments about.
How about you, Terry?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was busy sending the slide deck to Kathy.
Thank you for sending the slide deck. Thank you.
You're welcome. What was the question?
Question is what are you looking at for the for budgeting and new revenue ideas and things like that for next year?
We're basically waiting for Pitt to make a decision as whether or not they're going to have fall physical classes, a hybrid of the two, or will it be strictly online. But we'll do what we've been doing since we, in March and April, we converted our weekly e-newsletter to a daily e-newsletter edition. And our students just, catapulted them into doing that, which was good. And so we canceled print and we just have the e-newsletter edition that comes out daily, as well as, just the online editions just being updated with breaking news as it happens. But I guess the goal is if Pitt doesn't have physical classes in the fall, we'll continue with the daily e-newsletter. And then, at that point, we're trying and desperately trying to get all the .edu addresses, which Pitt has been really, really adamant about giving to us. They're okay sending out a once a term email blast for us, asking students to opt into our subscription to our e-newsletter, but they're not willing to go the route of just emailing it out and having them opt out.
That's how Ken is too.
Yeah, but we're pushing, like our e-newsletter right now is just 5,600 subscribers. And it's just not, definitely not enough. We did add some additional banner ads to our e-newsletter because we had a lot of people that were in print that we were trying to convert over to digital. We added a billboard ad position to our online edition, and we secured an advertiser to take it for the next 3 months, so we're happy about that. But yeah, I guess I'm kind of like leaning towards like, there's just no way that we can sustain ourselves with just digital. So I'm kind of like leaning towards where Charlie's going, whereas if we can, if there is some sort of hybrid on campus where there are some physical classes, but there still are online classes, if there are people on our campus, I'm inclined to use our racks to put some special editions out and have a much longer shelf life for them, which will add a little bit more value to the advertiser and to our readers. But the caveat is what Tammy brought up, is whether or not people will pick them up. I just don't know. I imagine some of our faculty and staff will. They were primarily the people who picked up our print edition anyhow. We still had some students picking it up, but not a lot. But yeah, I guess, again, the whole thing is just, pending what decision Pitt will make. But, I'm anticipating major cuts from university advertisers. Last I heard, it was like a 15% budget cut across the board. But I don't know where that's going now. But yeah, but we'll still sell extended digital reach because we always have, like I said, for the past several years. So we'll have that as well as just selling our digital products. And then hopefully we'll be able to put out some special print editions if there is if there is fall physical classes or a hybrid of the two.
I have a question for those of you that have increased your amount of email newsletters. Have you seen subscribers react by unsubscribing because they feel like they're getting more than they signed up for originally? Or has it not been enough time?
At University of Minnesota, like I was saying a little bit earlier, our subscriber rate has gone up and our open and engagement rate has gone up. Not dramatically, like I said, we're still at about 50%, but the unsubscribes, we're not seeing a lot of unsubscribes at this point. And that correlates with when we talk with the Star Tribune, like they're seeing a lot more traction on their digital delivery products, whether it's the email edition and or they do a kind of like an issue that they mail out to everybody too. And even that has seen some growth, but I think that's much more in the older markets. So that type of thing isn't resonating really well with our readers. Like
Have you increased the amount of times you send an email though? Have you gone from
we did that last year ahead of time. Okay. We really wanted to push our newsroom to start publishing an e-edition 5 days a week. 2 print editions, and then because right before that they were putting out an e-edition the day that the print edition went out. And so the first hurdle to get across there was convincing the newsroom, okay, well, can we send an e-edition out on the 3 days that we don't publish? And they said yes. And then we went 100 or 5 days a week. And if there is breaking news or something like that, we will do a push on a Saturday or a Sunday if we feel like the readership really needs to know it.
Yeah. Have you guys seen less?
No, actually, we haven't seen anybody unsubscribe. I know that our engagement rate is definitely up. It's not where it is where Charlie is, but our open rate now with our subscribers since we went daily in mid-March was 30 to 40%. I think the national average is like 22%. And then our click rate has been anywhere between 10 and 15%. And I think the national average is 4.62%. So the engagement rate is definitely up. So yeah, but
yeah, we've hesitated going to like a daily because we feel like people would mix out, but we did increase as far as from once a week we went to twice a week. So
who does everybody use for your newsletters?
MailChimp.
MailChimp.
Is anybody else on the town newsletter system?
We used to, and it's trash.
It is. It's terrible. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks that.
I was going to say ours isn't a subscription. So, the newsletter I'm selling is BAM Alive, which is completely separate from the CW. So we have a really small number on our CW email. I should know that number, but Tracy wants me to start selling it. So I will learn that number when I start selling it. But it's not a lot right now. It's not enough to sell. The list of emails that we get from the registrar, we do a completely separate BAM Alive that no one subscribes into. So we're sending it to like 40,000 people. And we have a really small unsubscribe rate. So I think the content of that feels more applicable to college students than the traditional newspaper content. So it's very event driven. It's very meme heavy. It is fun content, things going on campus, less who's the SGA what's the SGA situation right now. And so our open rate has always been over 30% on that, even though those people aren't subscribing. After the first one, after everybody went home, was like 60% open rate. And then it was like a week of 50s. And then we're back down in the 30, 40 range. So just an example of like, these people didn't even subscribe to begin with. And a lot of them still open it and have not unsubscribed. So it's not exactly the same, just putting that out there.
I am curious what kind of revenue you generate, Julie, with those kind of numbers.
Yeah, I should probably know that right off the top of my head. I look at it, but last month I looked and ran really quickly because it was a really depressing number. But I'm happy to look at it and tell you, even issue to issue, it changes obviously a lot. But I think that it's probably half of what we were doing with the CW a month. But this is the line for the CW. Oh, I got my background on. I can't do my hand motions. The line for the CW has been going like this, and the line for BAM Life has been going like this. So they were much closer this semester than they have been other semesters. But I'm happy to pull and kind of show you we're never sold out. Usually I have at least one thing sold, but there are occasional times where we have one without an ad still. So it's not a slam dunk or anything.
I just signed up.
It's a fun, so that's another discussion. I didn't say this earlier, Kathy, when you asked what we were doing for budget. So Tracy asked on the call this week who has ideas to make revenue in the summer. And my suggestion was BAM Alive. We stop it. We don't do it in the summer. And I have clients normally in the world that ask me, how do I stay in front of the students over the summer? And so I suggested to her, because we can't pay the BAM Alive editorial staff and writers, if she would ask them if they'd be comfortable with us reusing some of the content that they created during the year. So what we might do is have one piece of new coronavirus campus updated information, and then we would pull content that they had already done that is still applicable to use over the summer and kind of make it a different thing. So I don't know if that'll happen over the summer, but that's an option. I can't, I know we can't pay the students to do it. And so trying to figure out a way to still make it student content.
Can you offer
the
some
question.
internship credit? Do you guys do that? We can offer internship credit for students to work for us. So even though
We
you
haven't.
have them full-time doing stuff, you could have them occasionally doing stuff as an internship.
Yeah, well, now my sales team is completely intern based. When they start, they're an intern. They don't get any class credit. I just call it an internship, and they come and do the training and then start getting paid later.
Ours get class credit. It's class.
I don't have anybody that I know of in our building that's getting class credit for anything right now. But that may be something that we have to start.
That is one thing that Kent State has started doing, because a lot of our students, I don't know if any of your students are experiencing it, a lot of our students have lost their internships for the summer because the businesses are shut down. So Kent State is offering departments the ability to offer credit now in terms of doing internships. That way we don't have to pay them because we don't have the money to pay them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that way they can still get the internship credit to graduate.
Who have we not heard from? Alan, what are you guys doing?
So we are, a lot of our cash comes from partnerships that we have on campus. So our sales staff has mobilized to partner with our parking garages, and we sell what we call elevator wraps on the elevators, which are big stickers that we just put on there, which are very popular, except when there's no one around to look at them. So we had to obviously stop selling or charging for those. A lot of our stuff is engagement based, so it really has us rethinking our event strategy, which I'm a full believer in trying to generate a lot of revenue at a high profit margin, and also help us hold up on the marketing side when don't have any print presence. So now we're rethinking all of that. So I feel you, Tammy, when you're talking about, oh my God, is anybody going to take the paper out of the rack? We're all rethinking just touching, right? All of all that stuff. So we're currently trying to reevaluate a lot of that. I still believe the human condition wants to engage. They still want to engage with each other. So we're going to come up with different smart ways to do that, but we're kind of trying to rethink those things. The one thing that's been the most exciting for us, just from a audience meets journalism meets really good for our brand, has been our program, and maybe some of you heard me talking about it at the conference, but our Curious Cornhuskers brand, where we're just really distilling the journalism down to, oh my God, what's your question? Can we answer this question for you? And trying to figure out different ways to engage. So at the conference, we met, and his name is escaping me, David, who works for Advanced Publications. And basically they have a product called Subtext, which is a text messaging program that we're very excited about trying to explore. I come from the community journalism world, so I was very much used to push alerts and really trying to grab attention through apps. Well, we don't have that, nor do I think the students would really use that, but I'm wondering if we can get a lot of direct, real personal engagement through this product, and trying to leverage the Curious Cornhusker product as a very individualized tool that also has some mass media appeal. So I'm really hoping that we can weave that into sponsorship packages. Again, it's a very sensitive area because your phone is such a prestigious personal place to be, right? Like once you get into that real estate. So we're looking at that and trying to figure out just how we can generate attention and eyeballs, and then get them to come to our events, get them to read our content, and then see if we do have contests or giveaways or different things like that, if people want that in their text messaging in their phones. So that's some of the spaces that we're trying to get to while we're generating virtually zero revenue, because a lot of our stuff over the summer, we don't do much print, but we have a couple of print specific partnerships that we use that are around new student enrollment, which went away, or which went around an event that happens on campus that we just did the program for, right? Just some easy cash wins, that all that kind of stuff went away. But we've really made our bones with partnering. We even have digital screens throughout campus that we're able to sell ads on, the relationships that we've had to make. So it's just going to be, I think, more of that stuff, really those opportunities. But before I arrived, my predecessor told me that those opportunities came through budget cuts. So leveraging our sales staff to be able to say, hey, you guys are poor and we can help you. You know, that type of attitude really worked out a couple of years ago. So we're seeing where the chips fall and then going to see if they have an appetite for that. And mostly I'm also thinking before they hire their own salesperson to sell their own stuff. If that makes sense. So.
Yeah, we've kind of started a similar thing. I was on a meeting yesterday trying to re-engage some of those relationships with housing and some of those others to, because they have restrictions, right? The state legislature says they can't go out and compete and market and advertise off campus. And so yeah, I said, I essentially said, let me be your loophole, right? Like we can. Yeah. So if you go with us, let us help you do that. So cool. Kathy Szynski, Sarah, you guys, I guess Sarah kind of talked about your budget cuts. Leslie, what are you guys having to deal with there? What are your ideas going on?
We haven't gotten any word on anything really, except I get a student employment budget through student employment office through HR. So that's basically our university funding. So we can't do anything if we don't have that. So our paper barely breaks even paying our town news bill and printing, and that's it. I actually made a change because I didn't predict a global pandemic, that my yearbook staff would start paying themselves out of their own account, and then I could use the excess money to pay my newspaper people more. I'm kind of saving it, but they're asking a lot of questions, and when you keep getting emails asking questions, they get more and more specific. It gets a little scary, but I think I've saved it, except for about $10,000, so that's pretty good. But we haven't gotten any directive of like you need to cut this much. We haven't gotten travel bans for the next fiscal year. We just don't know, like they haven't told us anything from over the last couple of months. I've seen a pattern that we're about 10 days behind Kent State on announcements and stuff like that. And so I'm waiting 10 days to see what Northwest is going to send out. But we don't really know anything yet. Like it's just super slow. We were already just printing once a week. Our editorial staff has been pretty quiet on the website, so that hasn't been good for us. I don't know what the problem is. That would be the Stephen Chapel department. But we were able to sell, like they met their pre-pandemic goal for our new student guide, which I was shocked about yesterday. So, well, not technically because somebody pulled, but they met it.
Let's give them a toast, shall we? There you go.
Yeah, only one client pulled. So that was really good. I don't know how they sold it. My directive was just do the best you can. And they did, and it was good enough. So we've already talked about distribution for stuff like that. We're trying to get creative with that, but we're pretty behind everyone else of even like getting a stay-at-home order. So we're just like kind of lagging. We don't really know. I am very nervous about picking back up printing. Like a lot of people have said, we're not going to print for this year, and that time of justifying, and we want to start doing it again, like starting back up, kind of like we were talking about the mega workshop. Once we do it online, are we going to be able to go back in time to how it was? So we'll see. I don't know, but we haven't gotten any direction from anywhere. So we haven't really made any plans for going back. I know our students do want to start a newsletter. We don't have one, and I feel prepared to do that based on like the resources I've gotten from you guys and sessions that we've done. I feel prepared to do that and to sell it, but yeah, we have no idea.
Just by raise of hands, quick poll. Who is not employing or paying students during the summer?
Is not.
Is not.
Sorry, what
I
was
never
that?
Whether or not you're paying students over the summer.
And you wanted to show of hands of who isn't.
Who isn't, yeah. Who is not doing that? So we know Julie isn't, and Kathy's not. Leslie's not. Who else said no? So those of you that have you been minimized how many you can have, or like the budget? Like I know I've just had to, similar to Leslie, I think I'm just following the state directives because it seems like the schools are, at least the state schools are kind of following that too. And Utah just released like this, we're gonna start reopening sort of directive, but it's gonna be 2 years until we're full gamut probably. But I just have to supply a bunch of lists, right? So they're like, give us a list of everyone that you plan to employ over the summer. And I'm waiting for the, no, you can't, or okay, that's all right, kind of come back. But so our plan is to go forward, just letting the students know that, you know, they won't be as paid as much and there won't be as much to do, but that's kind of a normal summer for us.
Yeah, I told the EIP just to hire as if you're going to have this much money, but tell them everything maybe, like you might not have any.
We were informed earlier this week that all student hires had to be approved by the VP of Human Resources at the university.
Wow.
So it goes through, you know, there's a form that we fill out that goes through the leadership. Director of HR has to basically say, yep, that's essential, which, you know, I just met with my boss and she said, you're good. your students are fine. But I think it's just to control frivolous spending.
Yeah.
So
We're hiring.
paying our editorial staff their regular stipends. So haven't figured
We're
out.
hiring less, but we're not paying as many as last year. We're paying part of them with internship credit instead. But we're limited based on the number of people we're allowed to have in the building. And we had to separate, when we go back, when they let us in the building, we have to separate their workstations to fit with the university mandate with how close they can be to each other.
Yeah, that's where we're headed to. So for you, those of you that are state schools, I would definitely follow, like, try to get in the loop of that. And most of your presidents or VPs or whatever are probably on task force that are helping determine how school is going to look and stuff like that. But yeah, ours is pretty similar.
For us, we're in a really weird situation because we filed for a PPP loan. And traditionally our staff gets smaller during the summer, but the terms to have the PPP loan forgiven is you have to maintain the current staffing levels that you got when the loan was originated. And so if we get approval, we're probably going to increase hiring over the summer so we don't have to pay any of that back.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. And we've already hired a lot of that staff. And I, first of all, on the Zoom recording, would never say I'm committing fraud, because that's absolutely not what's happening. But we're going to hire a bunch of people, or, hey, do we need to shift some of that retreat stuff from July to May? Or, what do we have? Because it's the exact same thing. When I applied for it, I just took an average number. Charles, I don't know what you did. I just took an average number of that to get the cash. And then they were like, oh yeah, by the way, you've got to show that it matches. And I was like, oh, we're already prepared to be giving some of that back.
Right.
But
yeah, we calculated if we don't increase our staffing levels to the levels that they are at the end of spring, we would end up having to pay back $30,000 of the $104,000 that we applied for. So in my opinion, it's just easier, and it's not fraud, to go have a deeper bench during the summer, help us prepare for some of these strategies that we need to focus on in the fall.
Yeah.
And then not have to pay the loan back because of the relief dollars.
Yeah.
And I think those are some of the different, and I understand that state schools aren't going to have that option. But if you're an independent or you are allowed to kind of go for outside funds, I would definitely do that. One of the other things too, that the Daily has done, and I think Kent State has also started it, and a few other folks, but we launched an actual fundraising campaign based on the COVID impacts. Let me share my screen really quick. And it's been going for about a week and a half right now. Let me close this over here. And so essentially what we're doing is we're talking about, any support that our alumni or our community can give us helps us support the community. We essentially just kind of wrote that out. This is a platform that the state of Minnesota offers for nonprofits, but it's essentially a GoFundMe page is what it is. So there are free platforms out there that you can launch these things on. And we set a 10,000 goal to be raised in a month and a half, and we crossed the 50% mark 3 days after we launched. And we've got a social media calendar pulled up where we're pushing to all of our networks. We have new ad spots, or not new ad spots, but designated ad spots now on our website. We have a call to action at the end of each of our articles. And that's kind of standard, just fundraising stuff that most student newspapers that have dipped their toe into this has already started doing. But then we had like our staff create a thank you video as soon as we hit the $5,000 mark. So we put that up there. And then we have like things that we're pushing out on social media to kind of highlight and keep it in the zeitgeist. And the state of Minnesota is actually they kick it off next week on Monday. They have a Give to the Max Day is what they call it. And it's an annual day that nonprofits fundraise all on the same day. And that organization is now doing a kind of a Give to the Max week that kicks off next week for all of these COVID impacts. So we're anticipating seeing some more stuff come in via that way too. So.
And then that's going to operating cost. Is that how you're saying that?
Completely unrestricted funds so that we can spend them however we want, whether it's to kind of cover the payroll, because we're in a position right now where we don't think the university is going to give us our summer fee money because they've been like just making it rain to the students that have been complaining about all of the stuff that they need to get back. So they just like blindly started coming in and grabbing dollars and giving it back to the students. And then the students didn't realize that that was going to impact them. Like, what do you mean my student organization now doesn't have any money? Well, you asked to give it back, so we did, you know?
Yeah.
And those are the types of things that we're dealing with right now as far as kind of the university disruptions that we're seeing being an independent. So luckily to date, we just got a notice that our student fee allocation for the fall will be $2,000 less than it was this year. So knock on wood that holds,
that's great.
But I'm not 100% confident that that's going to go that direction because our Board of Regents tends to listen to the students that don't necessarily know the entire nuances and complexities of that type of finance. The fact that their student fees didn't actually pay for the rec that they're using right now, like that was bought and paid for by students that never got to use it, you know. Student fees are kind of like their version of taxes that they just don't understand. And so.
Yeah, I made a post in our Slack channel to all of our student media groups when I started seeing our own people petitioning and claiming that services weren't being given. I was like, well, let's be transparent, fellas. Like, you're still doing your job and you're paid by student fees. So I said a great opportunity to cover some good stuff and inform students right now on how things actually work.
Right.
Kathy, Szynski, any updates on what you guys are having to deal with budget restriction wise or new revenue wise that?
No, sorry I jumped on the call late. It's still been a bit frantic for us. For some of you that know, our yearbook really kind of got into the business maybe about 8-10 years ago on actually selling caps and gowns and other grad regalia because some of the bookstores that used to sell it closed. And we had been doing probably about, of the undergraduate students that participate in commencement, we were probably selling cap, gown, tassel packages and more to at least 80% of those walking. So that's actually what's carrying our business right now. The newspaper is not doing it. And then graduation got canceled. So I'm sitting on well over $100,000 in caps and gowns on my loading dock. But we've had students that still want things because they want to celebrate with their family and everything. And so I've spent the last, since mid-March, trying to help students get that stuff, whether it's shipping it to them, whether it was having them pick it up when we were still allowed to be on campus and social distancing and that. So, my board has been super supportive about, kind of taking the long view on this, that our cost of goods is going to really impact the budget this year, but hopefully next year for spring graduation, we won't have to order obviously as much, and we'll just store what we have. The university, we've been asked to submit 2 sets of budgets, a low impact and a high impact. Low impact of a residential experience in the fall, and a high impact with their not being, even though we like to think we're independent from the university, we really aren't. I get a university paycheck. I think Student Publications pays for all of us. We're a non-general fund unit, but the president has already come out and said that there will be, no raises, no salary increases for the next fiscal year, which, I would be fortunate if that's all it is, because so many other schools are looking at cuts. So I don't know if more will be coming down the road once they've had a chance to analyze the 2 sets of budgets and then what really happens in the fall. My students have really been, adamant about wanting to produce, a PDF version on issue, just so that there's something in our digital archives for legacy purposes. But are we selling any ads in it right now? No. We because we had our baby ad issue that I talked about before, we've been running that since 2013, and we still had a lot of parents who were really, everyone's just emotional right now, and they wanted to do something still to support their kids, even if they weren't being handed out at the big house, as long as we mailed some to each family. So we just got those in from our printer today, and James is working on getting those out in the mail. So we will, on that project, we'll end up, in the black, but our sales won't be as high as they were last year. And, and that's okay. I wanted to run with it and make as many people, as happy as possible. We've had conversations about the orientation guide, because that is, one thing that our orientation is definitely going remote this year. But we've had campus units reach out to us asking us if we're going to publish one this year, because we've been able to direct mail it to all the incoming freshmen and their parents every year. So I don't see where the registrar's office is going to push back on that. But the big thing is right, like everyone's talking about their, the budget cuts within the university, and what programs are having to reduce things. So trying to figure out how to pitch it to, again, still be giving the incoming freshmen an experience that's not while they're on campus, but a guide to help familiarize themselves, that hopefully someday when they do get to campus, that they've already started to build this relationship. Local businesses right now, the state of Michigan has a stay-home order through May 15th, and then they'll be phasing back some business openings. But, will local advertisers, how many will be able to advertise in a product like that? So, I think we're still shooting to do something with it. And, and James and I have talked about the conversation about whether, trying to get our campus, especially our campus units, to think about if you had it in your budget for this fiscal year, would you like to basically, if you still have money in your budget for this year, would you like to kind of prepay for like the back to school edition in the fall? And just like we pay by short codes, so it's the university units do. So trying to, get them to almost kind of just pay it forward, tack it onto this year's short code, and then be able to have an advertisement and a presence in the fall. Now, if we don't have an on-campus experience, then we have to just think about where we'll extend that advertising credit, I guess, in, however long that is from now.
Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. The last two discussion items dealt around the Mediumate thing that hit the listserv this morning, as well as events. And I think these can be ones that we talk about in the future as well. But there's a question about housing fairs, and Charlie, I think, just posted a thing about events. We do a fall thing where we let groups come on campus. We take over the quad, right? We work with our student involvement office and sell booths to on-campus and off-campus people. We're talking about what is that going to look like, because even if we come back physically, people still have to be 10 feet apart and they can only engage so much. Our concerts and the sponsorships we sell there. Any of you guys into that planning process and want to discuss that for the next few minutes, or something we can obviously carry over into a future discussion? But how are we handling events in the fall? Yeah.
About it yet?
Yeah, right.
Luckily,
Exactly.
yeah. So, and the link that I posted is I've just started doing,
my problem.
yeah, I've started doing some informal research on virtual events to see what best practices are and different things like that. So that was one of the first better articles that I had found, that kind of talks about how you monetize it from the sponsor's end and how you set it up for the user's end of it. Because I assume that those are going to become a lot more popular in the next month or so, because we are getting into music festival season and different things like that. And I imagine that there are a lot of other organizations that we could be looking at during this time to see how they're doing it, to help us kind of prepare for the fall. But other than that, I literally don't have any idea whatsoever.
So that we discussed yesterday for our what we call Day on the Quad event was, if we can't do it physically, to do it virtually. And what that would be is a website that students go in and can click and learn. And we as a staff start going out now and doing videos and like Q&A, like a brief video type thing for the advertisers, etc. But that's as far as we've gotten, essentially creating a website that allows for a virtual experience. But as far as pricing and what that would look like, is we haven't gotten there yet. Well, maybe we'll know more in a few weeks. But Leslie, any announcements of future programming to let these guys know about? Or
Yeah, we might next week. I'm not sure, Charlie. We were going to try to have a couple of flight desk people share their experience of moving people all online and like how they pivoted for that. But I don't think we're 100% set
No,
yet.
pardon me. I haven't had a chance to touch back with Monica. I did talk to Alex and Piper today, but I didn't have an opportunity to bring that up. So it was a different discussion. But yeah, when I was on a call with them last week, that's where I'd gotten the idea, is they had talked about some of the challenges that they had, because they also sell print campaigns into all of our papers and different things like that. So like when a lot of the shelter in place stuff happened, they had pulled together and tried to implement some different strategies to pivot everybody into the digital space. So I was just seeing if they would be happy to kind of share their experience with us and potentially like do some training with us later on in the fall when our staff comes back. So
okay. So maybe a session with James, to be determined. We'll be in touch. Watch the listserv for any programming for next week, and then another one of these that second week of May.
Yep. And also next week, we're going to be sharing this on the listserv. Charlie and I are participating as guest speakers on an SPJ and flight desk webinar for revenue reversal on how we start working our way back. And it'll be on May 6th. I posted in the chat the link of where to register for it, and it's free.
Beautiful.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep us updated. And have a good weekend.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
all right.